our friend Camtrack was stranded up here because of a rock slide. I wonder if he and his crew were able to clean off the tracks and move those big boulders. Hey, Cam, I'm glad you stopped by. Give us an update on the rock slide.
Well, my crew worked, and I worked, and pushed, and shoved, and finally got all them boulders off the track. But they were so heavy that they damaged the track, and fixing that's a whole other problem. We're still stuck.
Oh, I'm sorry. It'll get fixed eventually.
Eventually ain't okay. Do you know what this train here is carrying?
No.
This train is filled with M&Ms, and you know how much them people love they M&Ms? If we can't get down the mountain, then the M&Ms won't get delivered. And if we don't deliver them M&Ms, then people will get mad at us. And if they get mad at us, then they'll yell at us. And if they yell at us, then I'll get scared because I don't like it when people yell at me. So maybe it's better if we just stay up here on this here mountain forever. Because that way the angry people won't find me. But then, I guess I just plumb run out of steam.
Wow, I'll say. But nobody here is mad at you. All these great friends think you're a really cool guy.
This situation is hopeless. All I want to do is get on my train there, blow that whistle, and chug away.
Cam, don't lose hope. Remember, Jesus' power gives us hope. Think about driving your train. Go to your happy place.
Driving a train, happy place.
Close your eyes. You're chugging along, over a bridge, up a hill, and around a bend, and you go into a tunnel. It's dark right now, but if you look straight ahead, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Do you see it? Open your eyes.
Wow, now I really see it.
That's hope. It's like the light at the end of the dark tunnel. When things seem dark and hopeless, Jesus' power gives us hope. So even though you're stuck here for a little while longer, there's hope.
Well, it does make a lot of sense to hope in someone who won't let you down or get mad about M&Ms. Yeah. Speaking of which, hey you guys, I see what y'all doing. Stop eating them M&Ms. Put those back.
Yikes, looks like your crew's hungry. Those M&Ms might not be safe.
Hey you guys, quit that.
Well, our friend Cam seemed pretty hopeless today about his damaged train track and the fact that his cargo couldn't get to where it needed to go on time. You know, and sometimes we can feel that same way, especially when things are out of our control. How can we have hope when, like I said, things are just out of our control or, things are just plain hard? Well, we know that Jesus' power gives us hope. And we're going to take a look at a situation that Paul went through that might help us today. He had to remember to use Jesus' power for the hope that he needed. Well, we read about this in Acts 27. Now, do you remember Paul? We talked about him last week. His name was Saul, but now he's Paul, and he used to hate Jesus followers. Well, now he was a Jesus follower, which is pretty awesome. Well, he had gotten into a lot of trouble for telling people about Jesus, and he was arrested, and the officials wanted to send him back to Rome, where he originally came from. Well, that meant going by ship, and this was not a great time of year to be traveling by ship. It was pretty hard travels. At one point, though, they stopped at a harbor, and Paul told the officials that he expected that the trip would end pretty disastrously. He said people will probably get hurt, that you're going to lose cargo, and even lose the ship itself. Well, he recommended that they not keep sailing. What would you have done? Would you have kept sailing or stay put? Well, no one listened to Paul. No one who was important and in charge listened to Paul, and they just kept on sailing. Well, look at this map, and you'll see there's a world map, and you'll see to the left, that's where we actually live. And then the circle on the right shows where Paul's travels were. And I blew that up just so you could see the names of the different towns that he had traveled to during that time. But what do you think happened to the ship? Well, as they sailed, they got caught in this violent storm. And the winds were tossing them back and forth. And I could only imagine the seasickness that came along with that. Well, 3 days into the storm, they had to start tossing things overboard, like equipment from the ship and even some of their cargo. They were losing hope that they would be rescued and were afraid that they were going to die. Well, just when everything seemed hopeless, Paul stood up and told them that an angel of the Lord came to him and said that they should not be afraid. Every person would make it to land safely, but the ship would not. I wonder how that was going to happen. Well, 14 days into the storm, 14 days. Imagine this storm for 14 days. Men were getting desperate. Okay, they tried to get off the ship by lifeboats, but Paul had to remind them that unless they stayed with the ship, they could not be saved. So the soldiers that were on board cut the ropes to the lifeboats, so the lifeboats went away, and everyone stayed put on the ship. Well, in Acts 27, verses 34 to 38, it says this: just as day was dawning, Paul urged everyone to eat. He said, "You've been so worried that you haven't touched food in 2 weeks. Please eat something now for your own good, for not a hair of your heads will perish." Wow. Then he took some bread, gave thanks to God before them all, and broke off a piece and ate it. Then everyone was encouraged and began to eat, all 276 of them. After eating, the crew lightened the ship even further by throwing more cargo of wheat overboard. But when morning came, they didn't recognize the coastline, and they saw a bay with a beach area, and they wondered if they could get to shore by running their ship ashore. So they actually cut the ropes to the anchors that were holding them in place and allowed the ship to go into land. Well, unfortunately, they hit something before they got to land, and the ship started breaking apart. So the soldiers started to get worried about their prisoners, and they were actually considering killing them. But the commanding officer said, no, don't kill them. So he said, everyone, if you can swim, jump overboard, start swimming to shore. If you can, grab a hold of a plank of the ship or pieces of the boat and swim to shore. And that's exactly what they did. And guess what? Everyone made it there safely, just the way God had promised Paul it would happen. Now, see, Paul knew that Jesus' power gives us hope. And guess what? When we trust in Jesus, we can have that same kind of hope.